Okay, let's try and picture this. Imagine just the low hum of wind, right, swiping through really dry, sparse brush. And maybe far off you hear this soft crackle, a fire maybe, barely there in the twilight. Then, these faint, metallic clinks, gear being checked, there's this quiet, watchful feeling over everything. The land is quiet, almost unnervingly so, but definitely not empty.
So for this deep dive, we're really plunging into a really compelling narrative. It's an excerpt from Sanctuary's Dawn. We're looking at more than just a story here. We're watching kind of the birth of a new society, focusing on those, really raw themes, survival, suspicion, and those first really hesitant but crucial steps towards building some kind of community. I mean, what happens when the world just collapses and you have to forge new connections from the dust? Not just because you want to, but because you absolutely have to.
Yeah, and it's so important to get a handle on the world this story actually comes from. The source material, it sets up this really stark contrast pretty quickly. You've got the past dominated by these blockchain cities and this oligarch decree. When the story mentions those things, it's not just, cool name. It implies a whole society where your identity, your resources, even your social worth, it was all locked down, controlled through this like hyper-centralized digital system. So being labeled obsolete in that world, that wasn't just being fired. It was like digital erasure. The system itself just unmade you. Our story then, it unfolds miles away from all that engineered reality. Out in the wild, dusty, silent landscape where a much more primal set of rules seems to be taking hold.
That context is just vital, isn't it? Setting the scene like that. And right there, in the middle of this quiet, watchful place, we find our central figure, Hollywood Walker. He's standing there, edge of his sanctuary, just this lone figure scanning the horizon. You can almost feel the anticipation around him. He seems ready, ready for something or someone to break that silence.
And, well, as the narrative shows us, he doesn't have to wait forever. Someone does arrive.
Yeah, and the source describes them not just as, stragglers or outcasts, but with this phrase that's actually quite poignant, almost chilling, the discarded remnants of a world ruled by simulation and oligarch decree. Wow. It paints such a vivid, kind of heartbreaking picture of where they came from.
Exactly. And this whole idea of being labeled obsolete, it's not just some sci-fi thing, is it?
Yeah.
It taps into real anxieties we have today. Automation, economic shifts, people getting marginalized because they don't fit the new systems. In this story's world, it means total rejection, like an official stamp saying you no longer have value in those blockchain cities. So the fact that they're even here, outside Walker's place, it speaks volumes about what they share. They're the unwanted, the ones who didn't comply or maybe couldn't integrate, defined by what that old system denied them.
And how they arrive. It's so quiet, but so loaded with meaning. Camping just beyond the perimeter. No words, no weapons drawn, but their eyes speak. What does that quiet observation tell us? Not just about what they want right now, but maybe about how societies even begin to form.
Oh, that silence is everything. It suggests a history, right? Maybe betrayal or just really harsh experiences.
Yeah.
In a world without formal laws, being openly aggressive is risky. And words, well, words can lie, so you're forced back onto nonverbal cues. Their eyes are watching, yes, assessing Walker, but it also shows this desperate need, maybe a flicker of hope. They're figuring him out, sure, but it's also showing how when you strip away society's rules, the first communication is often really subtle, cautious, deeply observant. It's like the pre-verbal language of trust and survival.
It really is like a silent negotiation. And right in the middle of it all is Walker's flag, the stitched cloth and bone that marks sovereign ground. What's that simple flag doing there? What does it mean to Walker, and what might it mean to these newcomers? Is it hope? Or is it more like a challenge, a line drawn in the dust?
It's probably both, actually. And that highlights something really fascinating about human psychology when things fall apart. For Walker, yeah, it's definitely a statement. Independence, ownership, a boundary where there are no borders anymore. But for the newcomers, it's not just a keep out sign. It's also, crucially, a sign that something exists here. Structure, resources. In a lawless land, even a tiny claim of sovereignty suggests some kind of order, a potential anchor point for something more than just scrambling to survive alone. So the flag isn't just cloth and bone. It's this powerful psychological symbol in a world that's adrift. It shows how basic symbols become super important for establishing new rules or just asserting you exist when society's gone.
That's a really great point. So Walker's watching them, and we get this amazing glimpse inside his head. They were cast out, labeled obsolete, but they remember. They remember what it means to survive. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. He doesn't trust them, not yet anyway, but he gets them. He understands. Given what we learn about his own past, as a prepper, How does that shared memory of survival kind of fuel his caution, but also maybe create a potential connection?
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it? It speaks to a kind of empathy born from shared hardship, or at least shared understanding of hardship. Walker's understanding comes from his own path. The source says he was a prepper once, before the collapse, before the blockchain cities swallowed the soul of the world. That preparedness wasn't just about having tins of food. It's a mindset, deeply ingrained. He wasn't just worried about collapse, he actively got ready for it, stockpiling things, yes, but also knowledge. He'd already mentally rehearsed the end of the world, in a way. So his experience means he's not just physically ready, he's mentally braced for society breaking down. He knows what it feels like to be an outsider, to see it coming. He knows that raw instinct to just keep going. So his distrust, it comes from hard-won experience, not ignorance. But that same experience lets him see a similar drive, that will to live in these newcomers.
Yeah, understanding that prepper mindset is key here, which naturally explains what's in his sanctuary. Food, water, guns, bullets, seeds sealed in wax, maps etched in graphite. These aren't just random supplies, are they? It feels like a whole philosophy laid out.
Absolutely. I mean, food and guns, that's immediate survival, defense, obvious stuff. But the seeds sealed in wax, the maps etched in graphite, those are the real tells. That's foresight. It's like a fundamental rejection of that whole obsolescence idea from the blockchain cities. He's not just consuming, he's choosing cultivation, navigation. He's creating agency for himself. These items are literally the building blocks for something new. Tools for a long-term vision. It's not just about running from the past, it's about planting a future, his way. Shows he wants to rebuild, not just endure.
And he's not passive either. He's actively signaling, walking the perimeter, checking his rifle, loading rounds. The source mentions the soft metallic clicks. It feels very deliberate, a calculated display. Maybe not aggression, like you said, but definitely readiness.
Precisely. It's pure, nonverbal communication. A display of competence, preparedness. It sets a clear boundary. It tells them, I see you, I'm capable, I'm not easy prey. In a world where trust is zero and laws don't exist, showing capability is how you set boundaries. It's kind of the first step towards earning respect, which you need before any deeper interaction can happen.
Yeah.
It's just pragmatic, really, given the situation.
But even with this fragile standoff happening, this little bubble at the sanctuary, the old world is still kind of looming, isn't it? The source paints this chilling background with the distant drone hum and that static-laced broadcast, all citizens must report for biometric renewal. Ugh. How does that lingering threat from the blockchain cities complicate things? It must raise the stakes for trusting anyone out there in the wild.
Oh, it's a brilliant way to keep the tension high. It reminds everyone, including the reader, that the safety of this wild silence is totally relative. The threats from that old, controlling world are still out there. It suggests these outcasts aren't just running from a collapsed society, but from something powerful, invasive, that still wants to track and categorize them. You have this stark contrast. The forced digital order versus this messy, organic survival trying to emerge. That constant external danger means any trust built between Walker and the newcomers isn't just about them getting along, it's also about maybe forming a united front against something much bigger. It makes cooperation feel even more urgent.
Okay, so this silent standoff, this really delicate dance of watching and assessing, it all leads to this pivotal moment, an overture. One of them, a young woman, she has a scar across her cheek. She steps forward, no words. She kneels, places a bundle of dried herbs at the edge of the sanctuary, and the narrative frames it perfectly. A gift or a test. What is the significance of that specific gesture, so ambiguous in such a high-stakes, low-trust place?
What's so fascinating is that the ambiguity itself, a gift or a test,
Yeah.
it feels absolutely critical. In places stripped bare of social rules, the act of offering something, whatever the intent, becomes this first really vulnerable step towards creating a new language.
Yeah.
A language of trust. It forces an interpretation that, the old rules just wouldn't allow for. Dried herbs. Yeah, they could mean healing, knowledge of old ways, maybe sustenance from the land. But more broadly, it's a peace offering. It acknowledges they're all vulnerable, maybe share some common knowledge from before the blockchain cities. It bypasses words, goes straight to fundamental needs. It shows a willingness to connect outside those old, rigid frameworks.
And Walker's reaction, it's just as subtle, but wow, so profound. He just watches, doesn't move. But then he thinks companionship is earned, not given.
Yeah.
But the ritual has begun. What ritual is he talking about? What does this signify for maybe forming some new kind of social contract?
Yeah, he's not talking about some specific ceremony, like with robes and chanting or something. He means the process of building community itself. The ritual of exchange, of trust being tentatively put out there and observed, of boundaries being tested, maybe softened. It's the very first act, the foundation of creating a social contract from absolutely nothing, a new way to interact when the old rules are gone. The woman's gesture wasn't just about the herbs, it was the opening move in this incredibly delicate dance towards maybe working together. It starts a new, unspoken agreement about how people might relate now.
And the others see this, right? They react. The others shift. Some retreat, some inch closer. It shows the immediate ripple effect of that one quiet action, and Walker just letting it happen, tacitly accepting it. The vulnerability of her move and his cautious non-reaction, it sends waves through the whole group.
It really does. It highlights the incredible power of just one well-timed, well-placed gesture when things are desperate. And the group's reaction isn't uniform, is it? Some back off, some move forward. That reflects their individual traumas, their different backgrounds probably, these discarded remnants. But the fact that some inch closer, that signals hope, a willingness to maybe risk connecting, even after being labeled obsolete. It's like a collective response to a new possibility, moving from just watching to maybe tentatively engaging.
And just like that, the isolation seems to break. The source wraps up this section with that really powerful statement. The sanctuary is no longer alone, and Hollywood Walker is no longer the only one who remembers. This suddenly feels like it's not just about one guy surviving anymore, does it? It feels like a shared future starting.
Not at all about just him anymore. This is that key shift from individual survival to the very, very early stages of collective survival. Hollywood Walker might have been the keeper of certain knowledge, certain resources. But now that memory, that wisdom, maybe it can be shared, maybe even added to by these other remnants. It's the start of a shared history being created right there. And because of that, potentially a shared future. And that last line, tomorrow, the gate may open, that's not just leaving us hanging. It suggests the real work, the hard work of building trust and community is just about to begin, moving from watching to actually engaging, building something new carefully.
And that feels like a perfect place to pause this deep dive. We've really unpacked a lot here. That stark struggle for just basic survival, then the really complex dance of earning trust, extending trust, and that profound, often silent act of seeking real human connection after everything's gone. It really highlights how new rituals, even something as simple as placing some dried herbs, can become the bedrock for a whole new world.
It absolutely does. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a really compelling question to think about. What does it genuinely take to rebuild trust, to rebuild community, when everything you knew, everything society valued, has been basically thrown out by the system that rejected you? Put yourself in Hollywood Walker's boots, watching her, seeing the others shift. Would you open that gate?
That's a fantastic question to wrestle with. We really encourage you to think about it. What parts of human nature, what parts of society are truly essential when you have to start all over again, drawing on these sparse but incredibly meaningful moments we've talked about? Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.